So nothing is set in stone just yet. The clock is at the 11th hour and it hasn't struck midnight, but it does feel like Chip Kelly's not so magical run at UCLA is coming to an end. And as the Bruins turn to the Big Ten and future endeavors of winning a national title, you turn to where do you go for a head coach? If you are new, welcome into the channel. My name is Cole Thompson. I'm a radio show host based in Houston, and I talk college football daily. So if this is the type of content you enjoy, which clicking on the video thinks you do, make sure you also smash that subscribe button, leave a comment telling me your thoughts on who the Bruins should hire in the Big Ten for 2024. And as always, let's continue to talk college football. So Chip Kelly is 33-33 in 6 seasons at UCLA. There was a report that came out, if I'm not mistaken, by 24/7 Sports' Bruin Report online that said he would be fired after the USC game. And even with a win, what you're doing is you're kind of ripping off the Band-Aid and starting fresh in the Big Ten. And to me, this feels like a move that has to be made now, and you can't make it next season. Because when you look at Chip Kelly's persona, his demeanor, his personality, it's one thing in front of the camera, and it's one thing when he's on the sidelines. But when the camera's off and when he's no longer wearing a headset, from conversations around college football, he's a very mild-mannered guy, very much to himself and very closely somebody who likes to keep things to the vest. And that's fine and dandy if you want that in a smaller conference where expectations are at an all-time high. And whether or not UCLA is actually the pinnacle program going to the Big Ten, they are still going to the Big Ten. And so no longer are you having to win recruiting battles against teams like Arizona State and Arizona and Colorado. You have to go up against the big boys like Penn State and Michigan and Ohio State. And naturally, the main thing that you could say to yourself is, well, a lot of kids probably want to stay closer to the West. They don't want to make trips all the way out to Ann Arbor or in-state college, or even to a place like Piscataway, New Jersey, for that instance. They want to stay close to home. That's cool. But now you have also Oregon and Washington that are great resources and have great resources to recruit that also have the Big Ten brand next to their name. So that is closer to home. Maybe it's not a 2.5-hour plane ride, but it's instead a 6.5-hour car ride. And so that now changes things. Chip Kelly has had 1 year where he's gotten more than 9 wins. That happened last season underneath Dorian Thompson and Robinson at quarterback. And they also had an exceptional running back in Zach Charbonnet. They had some very quality receivers, some decent linebackers. They played up to a certain standard last year that didn't carry over this season. And they do have a good young recruit in a quarterback in Dante Moore, but at the same time, they really have underachieved expectations. They lost multiple games when they should have won. They're currently sitting at 6-4, so bowl eligibility is plausible, but you're kind of saying to yourself, if we keep Chip Kelly around for another year, are we actually going to have success? And define success however you see fit, but the bottom line is that what's another year going to show you? That a coach who usually goes about 8-4 will go 7-5, 6-6 in a conference that now features upstanding competition, maybe competition that's even better than the one that's found in the Pac-12. And the Pac-12 this year has been phenomenal, but we can admit over time, Big Ten jobs and Big Ten opportunities are more glamorous and people pay attention to those more so than Pac-12 After Dark. Yours truly loves it, and most of you probably do as well, but be real. The average fan pays attention to 2 conferences, the Big Ten and the SEC. And so the level of competition is probably only going to get better as you add in schools from the West Coast, whether that is at Washington or Oregon. So you know that you are probably going to have a coach that has similar results like he has, and you achieve for better. So the hiring of Chip Kelly was smart at the time, and the firing of Chip Kelly is smart in the now. You want to get this done as soon as possible because you don't want to be hitching your wagon to a coach that kind of puts you at a dead end. Because you want to start your tenure off on a right foot. You don't want to be playing catch up 3 or 4 years down the line. And lo and behold, now we're looking at a team like Texas A&M, where they did have an exceptional start in the SEC. They went 11-2 underneath Johnny Manziel, and the quarterback won the Heisman with Kevin Sumlin. But meanwhile, Mizzou ended up struggling in year 1. They bounced in year 2 and won the SEC East, and they've kind of been a middle pack team in the SEC. And so is Texas A&M, but you expect more in College Station, especially after what you did in year one. That's kind of where you want to be if you are a team like UCLA. Here's the problem with UCLA, though. They don't put enough resources into their recruiting. They don't seem to have enough of a care when it comes to that aspect. And you have to utilize that if you're trying to win in the Big Ten. You have to be able to nail recruits that probably are looking at a Penn State or an Ohio State. And most of all, you need to have somebody that will keep kids at home. That's a major deal. One of the big things that I found fascinating for years was look at the quarterbacks that played on conference championship teams. They came from California. Bryce Young's from California. CJ Stroud's from California. He made an appearance in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Stroud made an appearance in Columbus, Ohio. You have to find somebody who's willing to keep these kids at home and not allow them to even single out conversations about going to a potential rival. That's where you are. And so UCLA is not going to be an easy job. It's going to be a challenge for whoever is the next head coach, because not only are you having to win recruiting battles against other schools from the Pac-12 making the jump to the Big Ten, but you don't have the resources that Oregon has, or the resources that Michigan has, or Ohio State has, or even Penn State for that matter, because you don't invest into it. Basically, you have to be Jeremy Piven level of the goods car salesman if you are a head coach at UCLA, because you have to persuade everybody, yeah, we like this spot. Yeah, we're pretty good here. Yeah, we feel pretty confident in Los Angeles. You can win out west with us. That's what you have to do if you want success. And if you don't get that, then the problem is you find yourself basically paddling upstream with styrofoam paddles. That's what you have at UCLA. I don't know where they go for the head coach. I don't know who would be interested in this job. I can tell you right now, my first phone call is to Corvallis, Oregon, and offering Jonathan Smith whatever he wants to be the next head coach, because I think he deserves to be at a Big Ten job. I think he's done a phenomenal job of what he's done in his time in Corvallis and what he's done for the Beavers. And the Beavers still might have a shot of winning the Pac-12, which, can you imagine saying that like 10 years ago? Like the Beavers in the final year, by the way, final year of the Pac-12. Can you imagine saying that was going to be a thing? Because money talks and bureaucrats decide to cash out checks that really don't matter. But could you imagine that being a conversation not so long ago? The Beavers beating Washington and Oregon as a swan song. That's one of the more underlying stories. But back to the main point. If Jonathan Smith is available, I would immediately make that phone call. And if not, I don't know where you go. I mean, you could easily go make a phone call to Ann Arbor and see if Sharon Moore is interested about coming out west. But you have to be able to find a good recruiter. That's another main thing. You have to find a salesman who will sell you on the future of this job. I think Chip Kelly is a fine coach, and if he still wants to continue to do this, he can, just at a smaller place where expectations aren't so high. And unfortunately, when you don't have the vibrant personality or the funding of a place like USC or a place like Oregon, where Dan Lanning is charismatic, he's cunning, and more specifically, he has everything at his disposal, like he said, you have to be able to sell. And Chip Kelly just doesn't seem like a guy who's going to do that. So it's the right move for UCLA if they're trying to win in year one of being a Big Ten member. You hate to see it. Nobody likes seeing anybody get fired, but it does feel like the right move for UCLA at this point. And for Chip Kelly, well, maybe a job like Hawaii would offer him, right? Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. Don't hit the X button yet. Make sure you hit subscribe to keep up with all of our daily content found on Just Saying It and anything else that we post on this channel. Bye.